This isn't my kitchen. My kitchen is really crappy, and I couldn't even use the oven without setting the smoke alarm. What's an actual stove? An actual oven? A microwave? Whose kitchen is this? So, as many of you guys know, I moved out of my old apartment and now I'm in a new one with a much nicer kitchen, so therefore hopefully much nicer content. Today I'm making a dish from season 5 of Shokugeki no Soma, aka Food Wars, where Suzuki-senpai, I believe is what he is called in that episode, went off against Yukihira to make a tonkatsu.
さあ待たせたなお上がりよこいつはソースシャンティ篠宮師匠に聞いた覚えがあるぜけどそれをとんかつに添えることは思いつかなかっただろう俺は生クリームをふんわり軽くなるよう泡立てたホイップに刻んだラッキョウやエストラゴンケイパーといったハーブを混ぜ合わせほんの少しのタバスコなども加えて調味したふんわりの上にどっしりとした存在感が加わるようにな
And since it's a Shokugeki episode, I have to break out the special break. So there are two things I've never done before this dish, and that is first the Chantilly sauce, but after some googling I found out that it seems to be a bearnaise sauce, which I have done before, and a Chantilly cream, which seems pretty straightforward, and you just combine the two to make a lighter bearnaise sauce and call it Chantilly sauce. And the second thing is Soma started off with cold oil for his tonkatsu and then brought the heat up at the last second. I'm going to try that since I usually just preheat the oil and then let the pork go, and we'll see if that makes a difference. But without further ado, let's get started on the first episode in my brand new kitchen. We're gonna drain the capers out, but reserve the liquid. And the reason for that is you want like some sort of like acid or vinegar for your bearnaise sauce. But I figured since we're using capers in there anyways, you might as well use the pickling liquid that's inside the capers instead of replacing with vinegar. And if you don't have a food processor like I do right now because I'm waiting for mine to get shipped, we're going to manually chop up some capers. So I want to roughly chop them to get them into some smaller pieces. Move it into the saucepan that you plan to heat the mixture in, just for less dishes. For the shallot, I just want a pretty rough dice and or mince. After you remove the leaves, give it a rough chop. And into the saucepan it goes. This is what it should look like with the shallots, capers, and tarragon all inside. We move the saucepan to the stove. We're gonna add the capers liquid and set it to medium-high heat. Now we're just looking to heat this mixture and reduce the liquid down just a little bit. Now that most of the liquid is boiled off, we're just left with this. We're going to set it aside and let it cool down to room temperature before we add it to the rest of the sauce. All right, for this other part of the sauce, we need 2 egg yolks. Save the egg whites for making egg white omelet or something later, but we won't be needing them for this recipe. Along with our 2 eggs, we also need a tablespoon of water. After you've combined the egg yolks and the water together, add in the mixture from earlier. Make sure it's completely cooled down, because if it's still hot, it might cook the eggs going in. So we want to make sure it's completely cooled down to room temperature. And continue to whisk until fully combined. Now on this side we have a saucepan of boiling water, and we're going to put this on top and continue to whisk the eggs until they double in volume. Make sure that you're continuously whisking, because if you don't, the eggs are going to start cooking, and that's the last thing you want for this. We're just going to keep whisking until the eggs have doubled in volume. As you can see here, they are doubling in volume. Now's the part where we start adding the butter. So we're going to add bits of butter slowly at a time. If it gets too hot, make sure you take it off the heat. Let the pan cool down, or let the bowl cool down a little bit. Then feel free to bring it back on the heat whenever you feel like it's cooled down enough and you're not playing too close to the temperatures here. You can keep adding butter slowly at a time. Don't add the butter all at once. That's the number one thing. After you've added all the butter, feel free to taste it in order to check for seasoning. And also, if it's too thick, add a little bit of hot water. And if it's too thin, just keep adding butter. And of course, the final ingredient to the sauce is a bit of Tabasco, like he said. If I can get it out. This will probably replace the black pepper that you're supposed to add with a béarnaise sauce, but I've never had Tabasco sauce to this before, so we'll see how that tastes. Now for the Chantilly cream, you gotta start off with about a cup of heavy cream. All right, looks good. Tastes good. Okay, now we're gonna try adding it into the béarnaise sauce. I'm only gonna add a little bit at a time to see the effects. But I'm going to fold it in and not whisk it in. I'm glad that I didn't thin out the sauce because adding the whipped cream has definitely loosened up the sauce just a little bit. I'm gonna add just a bit more. If this is the right consistency, then I used about, I want to say 2/3 of the amount that I put in, or 2/3 of the amount in the bowl. So it'd be like a two-thirds of a cup of heavy cream. Mind you, I am completely winging this and trying this out for the first time on camera. I did not practice this ahead of time because I like messing up on camera. Final taste test. Interesting. And look, even though it's a lot there now, it still coats the back of a spoon. So we're still good. Let's set this aside. Now for the main part of the dish, the tonkatsu. Here I have 2 pork cutlets, and the next thing we're gonna do is bread it. So start off with the flour. And then shake off any excess, followed by the egg. You should be using the wet hand, dry hand method, but I'm holding the other one in my other hand. So we're just gonna do same hand. And the final step is the panko breadcrumbs. Make sure that it's nice and evenly coated everywhere. Oops, and try not to make too much of a mess. All right, now we're gonna put the pork in the colder oil. It's a little warm, but it's like not super warm. After 3 minutes on one side, we want to flip it over. Oh god. You want to flip it over and do another 3 minutes. Until fully cooked. So here is the completed dish, and the final step, of course, is to add the sauce. And pour out just a bit of miso soup. Or forgot to shake it. There you have it. Pork cutlet with chantilly sauce. All right.
Let's try it out. It's just really good. The sauce really wasn't too sweet. Like I thought adding the whipped cream would make it sweet, but it definitely lightened the sauce a bit and doesn't feel as heavy if I was just doing that normal béarnaise sauce. But it still kept all the flavors of the capers, shallots, tarragon. I don't really taste the Tabasco. I think I should have added a bit more. I was kind of worried about adding too much, but it definitely tastes good. And I attempted to do Soma's method where he started with like colder oil and then just like cranked it up at the end. I don't see a difference of how I normally cook my tonkatsu, but regardless, it turned out fantastic, and I would definitely make this again. Please let me know if you guys decide to make this, and let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you want me to make. Until next time.